win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is a sin. Ascend and word, bending birds, birthed in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh. This antithesis of mess, it's the verses of read. So long, you better catch a God, throw him the scenes. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean. God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.
Good morning.
Hey, how you doing?
I am well today.
Man, I am well today too. And I don't know about y'all out there. Hope y'all are all well, because this one we already started out with something just solely something before. I just used to say before the camera started rolling, we was already rolling. And those who've been following the show, you know, Shay from Diego would always tell me, "You kind of feisty if you don't have something to eat. You ever eaten today?" And no,
I said sassy.
Sassy. Well,
Yeah,
you know,
sassy.
I know sometimes the dudes, we don't necessarily be sassy. We just kind of be
I
a
know,
little
but
bit
that's the word
outraged.
that came out, because you be acting up when you don't eat. So
And I ain't had none
have
of
not
this
eaten,
last night.
right?
Yeah, the last thing I had was some chips and guacamole sauce about 10 o'clock
10 o'clock.
p.m.
Never mind. That's judgment in my face, people. That's not in my heart. It's on my face. 10:30.
But it was good. It was good. It was like crackers, and you know, it was with the stuff, and you know, I had a little spoon.
Are you gonna have that at the Super Bowl party on Sunday?
I would have a Super Bowl party if I had a TV that worked, that was in a room that works. So the TV in my front room,
Yes.
it turns on, but it don't have no images. And so I'm gonna try to work it out and see what. You know what? How about we do this? We're gonna pray and believe the Lord provides a way financially to replace that TV.
You know what? Walmart has amazing TVs on sale, and Best Buy is having a deal this time, this season too. So check it out. But if not, we'll figure out something. We'll figure out how to be in the same space.
Well, we're gonna pray too that the Lord sends that money for whether it's Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? It ain't a matter of inventory. It's a matter of financial storytelling. You know what I'm saying? So.
Got it. Listen, we have been in the series for this is our 4th week, because there are 5 steps to forgiveness that we're talking about. In our last session, we were on step number 3, and we got this close to keeping the camera rolling and just doing like a 2-hour kind of segment, because the next part that we're talking about today is forgiving your offender. But in true Knight&Craig style, we always want to bring you up to speed with where we are and do a little bit of a recap. So I'm going to show you step number 1, which was admitting something needs to be forgiven, that there's an issue, there's a problem. Craig, what would you add about this step?
Oh, because sometimes we have to be the reason and admit that a lot of cases that we're the problem. I'm the problem. I had that this morning. I had that epiphany. And it hurts to realize that sometimes you are the victimizer and the victim.
Yes. Yeah. And there you go. Step number 2, which is name it to have power, right? So name it to take away its power, to take on your power. But when we name it, we can deal with what that X is. So Craig just said, being the victim or the victimizer, sometimes we're harming ourselves, and as we're looking through this other lens of things happening to us versus things happening with us or for us, or we're giving our permission for things to happen, naming what it is, we can deal with that thing specifically and how it's affecting or impacting our lives, which brings us to step number 3, which is also what Craig was kind of alluding to. You kind of see a theme here. We got to deal with us. Yeah. We have to acknowledge our part. You know, acknowledging our part, forgiving ourselves sometimes can be really, really difficult. Craig, what would you add about this particular step?
Well, this one here, if you don't acknowledge and forgive yourself, you have regret, and regret can be a killer. There's a part of me that wants to say it's a killer, but I can't give it that full power because I
Mm-hmm.
can do all things through Christ who gives me the strength. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no one single thing that I can do that can totally corrupt my entire life without any
Mm-hmm.
hope of change. So there's this is the thing to remind ourselves is that there's always a means to turn this thing around, no matter how old we find ourselves or how long we've been in this space. But just forgiving ourselves and giving ourselves the grace that it's okay that I was that way, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to be that way anymore, and I'm going to work moment by moment to make that kind of change.
Yeah, this is really about identifying the patterns that we have. Why do we keep seeing ourselves in similar situations and then going, oh, but that's that person. It's like,
Yeah.
well, as my dad used to say, you can move to Timbuktu, wherever that is. You can move to Timbuktu, and if you're carrying yourself and you're having the same issues that you've always had, you're probably the problem. And it doesn't matter where you move, as long as you're there, you're gonna have that problem. So
I
uh,
love I love that because when you said that, I don't know if your dad ever said it, but I can hear him saying it, and what I'm adding in his voice in my head is saying, "You can move to Timbuktu, but you're there too." So
yeah,
the problem's
yeah,
always gonna be there, you know.
for sure. For sure. And this is where we're at today, folks. I'm just going to cover my eyes and say it like this. Like, you got to forgive your offender. Okay. It's easy to look outside of ourselves and go, you did this to me. And sometimes that is true. Sometimes there are people who have done some terrible things to us.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about taking your power back today. Before I jump into that one, Craig, because we're coming back to that one, let me just say what number 5 is. This is what we'll be talking about next week. And we can finally take that deep breath and let it all go and live our best life, the life after all of this devastation and trauma and all of those things, by following these steps. And keep in mind, we're providing these steps because it's important to have a process. It's important to have a plan as we navigate the treacherous waters of relationships, whether they're familial, whether they're intimate, whether they're friendships, no matter what, whatever title you have on it, if there has been an interruption or distraction in your relationship, you may have to go through these steps with multiple people. You may have to go with them through the same person for multiple issues. So we want to make sure that you know that we're on this journey with you. And this step number 4 is an interesting one. So I will turn it over to Craig and have him share a little
Wow.
bit about this before I give you any insights.
Well, I'm gonna get in there. I'm gonna get in there deep and
You're
early
gonna
this
jump
morning.
head
I'm
in
gonna
head
jump right on
first.
in, both feet. You know what
Oh,
I'm saying? If I had done my stretches today, I'd have put my feet up on the desk here with me. You know what I'm saying? And
oh gosh.
because I think for some of us, we need to make sure we look ourselves in the mirror because we are our offender,
Mm,
and sometimes we are our greatest offender. I know what Kirk
mm,
Franklin's got a song out where he talks about he's the primary. Oh no, it's actually Craig, where he talks about I'm the primary one, the chief sinner of them all. We need to
mhm.
be able to look at ourselves and say, hey, I am the reason why I'm not as far as I want to be or perceive that to
And
be in life, in not always in love, but sometimes it is in love too, because if we look at our roles in life, in business, and in love,
mhm,
and look at what we did or didn't do,
mhm.
at least from our part, had we just done our part, you can't control anybody else's part.
No.
But if we had just done our part, we would have been so much further along than where we find ourselves right now. And
Mhm.
that is in not doing that, we
Yeah.
become our own offender to basically self-sabotage. Did we
Mhm,
talk to the person that we wanted to talk to, that we swore that we love or had so much love for? Did we call? Did we text? Did we even look their way? Were we civil to them?
mm,
Did we
mhm.
did we really try to do the business that we really wanted to do? Not just talk about it or just put up a website, but did you actually be about it?
Right.
Were you actually being aggressive with it? Were we talking about it? Were we actually making some strides to make sales, contact people, whatever your business
Mm,
is? If you
mhm.
wanted to be a doctor or a musician or a lawyer, whatever the occupation is, did you
Mhm.
go to school? Did you do your homework? Did you pay back
Right.
your student loan? Did you go get the car to take you to school? Did you get on the bus or get the bus pass? Did you even ask someone for help when
Yes.
times got tough? Did you join professional organizations that, I'm sorry, I'm jumping too far. I'm just
No,
saying,
no,
but
no. I'm laughing because when you said, "Did you get the bus pass?" It's like it just made me think of a joke that Big Daddy says, but I can't say it on air, so I will decline to respond. I apologize. I had a
no
squirrel
worries.
moment.
No problem.
Yeah, no, you're right. Basically, what you're saying is, did you do what you needed to do in order for you to have the success that you think, or when you didn't have success that you thought, it's the one person who told you no, or it's the one
Yeah.
person who didn't see it the way that you saw it, never really fully accepting that you didn't do everything you could do.
Yeah.
And that's that's what we're talking about. And you went, I thought you were going somewhere else. So you went to us being the offender, and
Yeah.
that really is like the crux of this whole conversation
Yeah.
sometimes.
Sure.
What I want to add is when we have been victimized, when
Yeah.
I was a victim of someone else's pain, someone else's trauma, someone else's decision, and I was not a willing participant, if
Yeah.
you will, of victimizing myself. Forgiving this person or these people, I realize that sometimes when we think about forgiving someone, we think we're letting them off the hook, or that
Mhm.
they're not going to experience what we experience.
Yeah.
And, there's this wanting to get back. There's this
Yeah.
wanting to, you talk about revenge a lot, you and Tyrone. And so there's this thing like, oh, they got off the hook because we've excommunicated ourselves from that situation, which is rightfully so, but we're still blaming them for why we are the way that we are today. So that's why step 3 is so important. But getting to the point where we can forgive the offender, we're actually taking back our power,
Yeah.
and we're not settling for what this person did to us, living off the portion of life or the portion of whatever, based on their determination. I think we have something like that. I said this earlier, and Craig captured it. Here, I got it. Oh, there, oh, you did it already. My
Sorry.
bad.
No
You
worries.
have my back. Thank you, bro. It's not settling for less than what we deserve or less than what we can
Mhm.
have, because we are absolutely stuck
Mhm.
in the way that this person
Yeah.
has treated us and dictated how we should be.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live like that. And I made that decision many times in my life, in different, specifically love relationships, um, failed marriages, and then also being hurt in relationships, and just
Mhm.
going, wow, why would they do me like that? And that's where it ends. So then I don't give myself permission to love like that again, or to give my heart like that again, or to be a friend the way that I've always been a friend. And who is that hurting? Me.
Yeah.
Because now I'm not walking in my authentic being. I'm not honoring who I am. Instead of putting boundaries in place, I actually, like we talked about many back in season 1, about the moat. You talked about the moat that you created around
Mhm.
yourself, and for me it might have been a fence or a barrier or what have you. But that's what we do
Yeah.
instead of forgiving, which actually unlocks the door.
Yeah. I love this quote because when you think about the space that we allow people to occupy in our minds, it may seem like it's a lot, but if you really understand the capacity
Mm,
of the 10 or 15% of our brain, I don't even know what the
mhm,
proper percentage. I watched some movie, it was Lucy. I think they talked about humans use only 10% of their brain, and
mhm,
if you could use 40%, there would be, all these miraculous
mhm,
things that you could do. But
mhm.
so you figure if you're giving someone 1% or half a percent or some micro percent of our thought pattern every day as to what they've
Listen,
done to us,
yep.
when you really how small that is, that's their freedom that's running around in our minds. And so, and we're only that bit of, we're only free that little amount. And I'm like, I want I want the rest of my active brain to not worry about this person. So I
Yes,
want my freedom back. So my
yes,
freedom belongs to me. It doesn't belong to
yes,
my offender. And that doesn't take anything away from those who've done some really dirty, nasty, whether it be physical harm to us, mental harm to us. And I can't even I know what I'm going through with the people who have hurt me.
okay, let's talk about it.
So thankfully there's been no physical abuse,
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of the mental and verbal abuse that
Mm-hmm.
were handed out by folks that you loved, folks that you were very close to, people that in some cases you may have even called family,
Mm-hmm.
that hurts a lot, and it leaves deep scars, it leaves deep wounds, it starts to make you want to believe that you're less than, or even some cases that you deserved to have
Mm-hmm.
that. And then to
Mm-hmm.
realize that it's okay for them to be forgiven and let off the hook, so to speak, because God's gonna take care of it. There's many days where I'm like, no, I'm gonna be my own God with a little G, and I'm gonna go handle that up myself. And I have,
Right.
and I have verbally, in so many cases, handled those folks in a obviously an inappropriate manner,
Mm-hmm.
and that then allows me to have to forgive myself because now I become their offender in
Yeah,
their
you're
mind.
out of
That
character.
means out of character. I'm now scarring them. And when they
Mm-hmm.
think of me, sometimes the last interaction I had with a person was me yelling and screaming and probably using some great adjectives to describe them and how I feel about them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
remember there's a case in point where I was living in Carlsbad. And I had an investor in one of our films who was accusing us of being crooked and
Mm-hmm.
and doing poor business. And I remember what I went through with
Mm-hmm.
my home and my own personal finances to make sure he and his personal finances were handled well, and that was in violation totally of our investment agreement. So I
Right.
remember he came at me one last time, and I had had enough. Tyrone and I had become fast friends, and
Popeye spirit, as my dad would say.
yeah, and I had to actually leave my house physically
Mm-hmm.
because I
Mm-hmm.
felt myself getting that loud,
Mm,
and I went outside to the backyard,
mm-hmm.
so then my neighbors could hear it all, and
Mm,
I'm yelling and screaming at this person on the phone, and to use Tim Ross's, I had to use some strong language
mm-hmm.
because not because I felt like I had to get my point across, but it came from years of me suppressing the regret of the
Yeah.
anger and the pain that I needed them to feel just a little bit of.
Mm-hmm.
Did it make me free? I think showing a way it did because I no longer allowed the person to not know how I felt.
Yes.
But when I got done with it, now I have a whole bunch of new messes to clean up because I've offended this person. I've
Mm-hmm.
offended my kids. My kids are wondering what the heck is wrong with dad. He's running around,
Mm-hmm.
cursing up a storm and calling
Mm-hmm.
all kind of stuff. And what would make him do that? And then I've said it's okay for them to go do it when they're angry. So now I got to go
Right.
back and deal with that. So now I become,
Right.
another offender in their and maybe in another person's life because I've given my kids permission to do that. And so
Mm,
I, though it may suck
mm-hmm.
that the person not get the sentence and the punishment
Mm-hmm.
that I think they deserve,
Mm-hmm.
I have to free them
Mm-hmm.
from my mind
Mm-hmm.
and my expectations of what I wanted for them.
Mm-hmm.
My freedom is worth more than anything that I could dream up or do to that person.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if I did anything to them physically, on that get back, which in so many days I've imagined, planned
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
wondered what I would do if I got in their presence again,
Mm-hmm.
there would be so much more of a case that I'd have
Mm-hmm.
to lose my freedom. And I tell you, I promise you, no one is worth that, no
Mm-mm.
matter what they did to you.
Mm-mm. What is resonating with me is that you're talking about the strength
Mhm.
that it takes to acknowledge your part and forgive the person. So now you have to go back and do some repair, as you stated, if you hadn't already. I'm sure you did that with the boys. I don't know if you
Yeah. Oh,
did it
yeah.
with the other guy, but
Yeah. Mm.
forgiving someone is not a weakness.
No.
It's not about the um, actually staying in an unforgiving, bitter, low place, not acknowledging your part, not acknowledging what actually happened is actually the weaker the weakness to address it and to rise above it, to realize that. And when I say that, I'm not saying ignore what happened. Step one is admit that something happened, right? But what is it? What is it that we're angry about? What is it that needs to be forgiven? And again, this is multifaceted. It might not be just one thing, but when we stay in that rut of and that doubt and depressed, anxious state, not able to be ourselves, not going to the same grocery stores because we don't want to run into such and such. That all comes back to us and who we are and who we desire to be. We will never get there because we're settling for the remnant of what remains in this moment of weakness, this moment of out of characterness. I know I'm making up a whole lot of words.
No,
and I've been thinking about my dad a lot. Steve pointed that out to me. He's like, I said something about my dad this day, and then I said something else about my dad that day. He's like, you've been thinking about Papa a lot, huh? I'm like, maybe I have. And I think where that's coming from is some of the things that he has said to me, and I call it country wisdom or dadisms. They make so much sense now. I got it when I was younger. I didn't have the right application, but I understood the words that were coming out of his mouth and I understood the intent. But to be able to apply it and see it happening in my life right now, this is one of those things. He used to say that people that are at a funeral and they're oh gosh, I gotta be careful. This is what my dad said, y'all. I'm just telling you what the man said. He said that the people falling into the casket and they're so distraught and they're, crying uncontrollably and don't touch me, all of the antics that you might see on TV or maybe you've seen in your family. I have. There is a sense of unrest and uneasiness that comes from forgiveness. You'd mentioned from unforgiveness, that a lot of times the people, like you were saying, the last conversation that you had with them was a harsh one. It was a difficult conversation. And then something happens, they're no longer in our life, or God forbid they pass away. And the last thing that you have in your mind is what you didn't get to say or what you actually said, that we don't want to get to that point in our lives where we're not having conversations about the things that have hurt us or that we have done to other people knowingly. I'm not talking about somebody's angry with you and you don't know why, you really don't know why they're mad with you. It goes both ways. But when we know and we have the opportunity to say, I'm angry, I need to forgive you of X, Y, and Z, you might find that person didn't even know that was the source, right, of your frustration or your relationship. But God forbid that something happened to them and that's what you're left with. The unanswered questions, the unanswered or the lack of receiving that apology and how that can weigh on us.
Or even the acknowledgement that there is an issue in the cases of people that they've done stuff knowingly to us. And I think some of us struggle with the unknowing parts because some of us were expecting people to be clairvoyant and just to understand and just figure, well, what I've been through, how I am. And it's like, well, I know something happened to you, but I don't know the depth of it. I lived in that space for years where I was mad at people for not treating me a certain way or not doing for me and playing that whole victim role because what happened to me, what happened to me. And I should be able to, I'm looking for that past, what happened to me. But it happened. Okay. And in another season, I'll be able to get beyond that it happened and move forward. But it's tough to talk to a person who's been a victim because you'll never not be a victim. And it's harsh to say, and I don't want people who've been victims of some pretty heinous things to go, that dude is crazy. But I've never gone to an AA meeting, but I resonate with having had tendencies of a person who should have been in AA meetings. I understand that some of their steps talk about once you've been an alcoholic, you will always be an alcoholic. So once
Hmm.
you've been victimized, you will always have been a victim of that thing.
Absolutely.
So some people don't have, some of us live in the thought as I'm a victim. No, you were a victim. I
Yes.
was married. My wife died. I am a
Hmm.
widower. I'll never be single again per the government.
Hmm.
You've had a divorce. You'll never be single again per the government. And if those who
Hmm.
out there who don't believe it, look it up. If you put single on your documentation after having been a widow or divorcee, and you say that you're single, that means that you've committed fraud on a legal contract and are subject to legal ramifications.
If the option is available to select divorced or widowed, right?
Correct.
If those options are available and that applies to you, because yeah, right.
Yeah. Because I
Yeah,
learned that
you're
harsh lesson.
technically single because you're not in a relationship, but the
Correct.
fact that you were in a relationship,
Yeah.
that classifies whatever that is in the government standard. We're always that. I like that you're bringing that up because a lot of times people think, well, I completed these steps, again in church, like walk through the steps of salvation. Do you believe
Yeah.
that Jesus died and do you believe that he's rose again and you're saved? Some people think when they get saved that there's no more trouble that's going to happen. Some of us think, well, I forgave you. Why, nothing's going to happen again. And I know that sounds simple and minimizing.
Yeah.
We know that that's not true. That's what we would hope would happen, is that I never have to deal with this again. But that's not reality. So my point in bringing that up there is that this is where triggers come from.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
now that you are a widower, now that I am divorced, yes, I'm married again, but I have been divorced. My husband has been divorced prior to me. Um, there are certain things that you go, "Ooh, dang, that didn't sit well,"
Yeah.
because the victim, the victim inside of me, that I'm not going to say it's buried because I addressed it, but there's still some things that, ooh, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm now responsible to communicate that. Number one. Number two is my behavior as a person who has been a victim has changed, right? Now that I'm no longer being victimized.
Right.
So the changed behavior of a person who who is an alcoholic but not actively consuming alcohol has learned how to overcome that by addressing whatever it is. The behavior has to change. This is the same thing with forgiveness.
Yeah.
This is why I always say, when your apology, the best apology is change behavior. And if you never get that apology, as the person who is asking for that apology or wanting or deserving of that apology,
Yeah.
if I stay in the state of mind and the state of being and the state of behavior that says, you owe me that apology, I'm just going to die right here,
You'll be dead.
I'm hurting myself.
You'll be
Again,
dead.
no, it's not. But we have to change the behavior and start a new relationship with self, as well as if you did get that apology and you decide you want to, you can forgive and not reconcile, for
Yeah.
sure, or you can forgive and reconcile. It's your choice. But to do that with ourselves takes a different level of intentionality, especially going back to your opening statement, when we have been the offender, self-offender,
Yeah.
self-offensive. I
And
don't even know.
I
Is that
heard
a
your
thing?
voice. Yes. Yeah. I believe
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
true.
right. I just don't know how to say it. I don't know what, offender of self or self-offended.
I think you
I don't
said it
know.
right because I think we're being our own self offender. We're becoming our own victim.
Yeah.
It's almost like opposite of self care. It's self harm at that point.
Yes. Yes.
And when I was having my epiphany this morning before I jumped up and did my 27-minute grooming, they do not recommend because there's never enough time to get it done, especially when you've got
Jill,
an appointment. I'm
I'm,
sorry, you drink. I'm sorry. My bad. Forgive me on that one.
I don't
I'm just
recommend
saying.
27-minute grooming.
I'm just saying, man. I heard you saying that when you have those relationships, you have to create. When you have those issues, you have then create a new relationship with a person if you really want to get beyond. But what I heard you also saying, you've never said this, but the way my mind then heard your voice say, when we're trying to become better and forgive
Mm-hmm.
people and make these changes in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
we then become another person. Not
Mm-hmm.
because we change or we got Sybil or what is it? Deanie said we got 5 people inside of me. No, it's not like that. It's just the personality, the personage, the thought processes that we are trying to get rid of and suppress and just give over, cast those cares on
Mm-hmm.
him because he cared for us and
Mm-hmm.
living that permissive life of staying in this way, those are gone. And
Mm-hmm.
so then, yes, we need to be able to, like you said, introduce ourselves to other people as the new person. But and my premise is there's even another step we got to do before that is we then have
Mm-hmm.
to introduce ourselves to ourselves
Selves.
and
Yeah.
find out what that new person is all about.
Yeah.
If the person is no longer a victim of that particular issue or issues, whatever those are, and you've done or doing the self repair and the healing that's taking place,
Mm-hmm.
whether great or small, to get better, we need to
Mm-hmm.
now know what this person is all about. What makes this person happy? What makes this person sad? What barriers do we need to put in place to make sure that because we are going to be hurt again. I used to live that life. I'll never be hurt again. But that's a lie. That's a fallacy. That's just something that we say off the top of our neck just to hear ourselves talk, to beat our chest. Oh, yeah, it's not gonna happen, you know.
Yeah.
But we've got to be able to find out what that person's all about. Learn to love that person unapologetically, and then
Mm-hmm.
introduce that new person to our relationships because
Mm-hmm.
we've just become someone that our kids may not know or
Yeah.
spouses may not know, and
Yes.
they may not be in love with the new person that we're becoming, or we
You
may
have
have been the person that they've always wanted to try to change, which a lot of women you can't change
whole
it,
nother story,
a whole
whole nother session.
in a session. People and guys, we can't change a woman either because that woman is who she is. And everyone's got to be celebrated for who they are. And the kicker piece that a lot of folks don't do is you got to
Mm-hmm.
be celebrated for where you are. Because
Mm-hmm.
you can't be expected to be a champion when you've never won. You can't be expected to be a leader if you've never followed. You can't be expected to become sober if you've always been a drunk.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's not even just on alcohol. Some of us are high on the aspects of life that are untrue,
Drunk on love.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my take is we gotta give ourselves some grace, a whole lot of grace, and give others maybe a whole lot more grace. And
Mm-hmm.
whatever's wrong with us, we need to get that out of our own eye and deal with us first.
Mm-hmm.
And really try not to use that little tiny bat to beat up everybody else with, but
Mm-hmm.
get it worked out inside first
Mm-hmm.
before you can even do anything to support others, let
Mm-hmm.
alone accuse them for something. So,
Right. One of the questions that I ask a lot of clients, and the number one answer is I don't know, and I'm like, you do. We'll get there.
yeah,
Is who are you? What do you like? Because what do you like to do? You like going to the movies? You like going to the beach? You hate the beach? You prefer the desert? Because a lot of times the transitions that are happening in many of my clients' lives, even my executive, I ask them that. Um, but a lot of the life coaching and individual sessions, number one answer, I don't know. I'm like, well, you got to find that out because for so long you've been living the way that you thought you needed to live with this person if you weren't being your true authentic self with them or you didn't know who you were. But a lot of clients are like me, when I first got married, I was 19. I look at my kids now, I'm like, they're 20 and going on 22. I'm
yeah,
like, I had babies, you know,
yeah,
at their age. And I'm like, what did I know? And
yeah,
so that's not to say that the relationship, you can't have a relationship at that age. It's to say I was a completely different person when I started that marriage
yeah,
from the to the time where we got divorced. Those years of dating and courting and this and that and the other, and then cohabitating, and then friendships gone, friendships lost, just you name it.
yeah,
Life is happening, right? So I had to relearn who I was. That's why I talked about it in another episode, but why it was so important to me to cut my hair.
Mm.
because that was something that I always wanted to do, or to get a tattoo, or to pierce my nose. Something I always wanted to do. That in that relationship, it wasn't necessarily acceptable. Maybe not by him, but definitely from the people and family members who were surrounding us.
Yeah.
Um, Multiple, holes in my ear, wearing an anklet, wearing polish, all of those things that I wanted to do. I had to redefine and learn for myself that no, that's not a sin. That's not. I don't feel disconnected from God. I actually feel more connected because I'm being real with Him. Like He already knows, but I'm able to be real because I identified those things. So that's an important step on this journey, is the relationships that change as a result of us changing,
Yep.
not changing to be mean or be the offender, but changing because we recognize the strength and the power of who we really are, our worth and our value.
Yeah.
Maybe there is something in society where we could, we have, coming out parties, we have gender reveals, we have baby showers, we have weddings.
Yeah.
Why not be like, I'm a new person and this is who I am?
Yeah.
Celebrate,
I think if we did that, I think we would be so much more free, because we celebrate all of these other, I don't want to say weird things because they're not weird to the people that do them, but we'll celebrate the opening of an envelope, but we won't celebrate a personal milestone in our own lives, and I'm a victim, and this may not be as, okay, mine I'm going to share is probably more extreme than what
Okay.
a celebration of a changed mindset. I haven't celebrated my birthday in probably 9 years.
You're celebrating this year.
Oh yeah, you doggone right. But here's the problem, right? And then just by me wanting to celebrate, I find out that Ryan, his graduation from junior college is on my birthday.
That's awesome.
No, it's not. It sucks because I had already planned in my mind that I'm doing something on that day. Now, here's the thing, but it was doing
Well,
something
you're
for
going
me.
to the graduation on that day, and you're
Right.
going to celebrate him, and we're going to celebrate the day before and the day after and the entire weekend. How about that?
Right. And how about that? Because that's the thing. So that was, and
I got you.
So as you watch how you make changes in your lives, I guess the takeaway is be mindful and watch out for those things that are going to come that are going to want you to go back to where you've been struggling or wanting so much or wanting to so much to get away from. The world's going to want to take you right back there because there's only so many tricks that people can use or do super spiritual, what the enemy can use to make you go back to who you were, right? And once you take those tricks away, what can he, what it is, what it is at that point, can he really do?
I love that.
Because it's really up to us.
Yeah.
And the choices that we make, that we're either going to keep having to redo these 5 steps with a new issue, or we're just going to have to polish through and review these 5 steps from something that may have come up in a thought. I would rather do it that way and minimize my need to have to do these with new cases than just having to keep reminding myself that I'm free by reviewing these on something that came up because something else that was trying to trip me made it feel like something when it really wasn't.
Yeah. That's
You
real.
didn't have, hey, well, you haven't had your 2 things today. I'm kind of sad.
Oh, we still got time.
Okay. Every episode, y'all, she always give me hit with the, okay, right now I got 2 thoughts. I got 2 points.
I know. And so I almost did it right then, actually. This is what I was thinking about. So my mom was having a conversation with my mom. And so this is the first thing I'm saying about my mom on this episode. But she was telling me she had a conversation with someone many, many years ago who had lost their mom. And she was like, the person said, I don't go to church on Mother's Day because, I don't have a mom or whatever it was. Right. And so I think that's what it was. It was like the Sunday after Mother's Day. And my mom said to her, oh, we missed you last Sunday. She said, well, I don't go to church on Mother's Day because I don't, I lost my mom many, many years ago. And that was the vow that I made. Well, this person had kids. And so you're a mom. So you're depriving your kids of celebrating you because you're stuck in the past. And whatever. The point of the story is my mom said that when my dad died, she was reminded of that conversation with that lady. And so she heard within herself
Yeah.
say, be careful of the new traditions or new, that's not the right word,
It fits though.
like vows, there was a
Mhm.
specific word, but be careful of the new things that you commit to
Yeah.
when you're grieving, when you're suffering loss, because rituals, that's the word. Be
Mm.
careful of what rituals you create,
Wow.
because saying you're not going to do this because of this pain that you're experiencing right now is depriving you, going back to living just that small portion of the life that you allow. You're
Yeah.
settling for so much less. My words now. But
Yeah.
this was a conversation that we were having. You're depriving yourself of being who you deserve to be, of celebrating your uniqueness, celebrating your beauty, celebrating what have you. And you're also depriving people who want to celebrate you, who love you, and who can be there for you during your time of grief or during your time of loss, forgiveness on this journey
Yeah.
called life, that could actually help you, because you're refusing that support. So I thought about that as you were talking. The
Yeah.
rituals that we create after hurt or harm
So,
or
so we're gonna post this on social definition of ritual, because I'm stuck on that word, because that
mhm,
is a big word. Not that
mhm.
it's got so many letters, but it's there's a lot
No, so much
behind it.
behind it,
Yeah.
meaning, Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so the word ritual, or
Mhm.
and I'm getting this from, let me make sure I cite it right, from dictionary.com.
Okay.
The noun part of it is an established or prescribed procedure
Mhm,
for a religious or other
mhm,
rite. And other
mhm,
rites, it talks about, demonic and satanic occult
mhm,
procedures as well.
mhm,
Let me get this thing goes back. Okay, then the other says a system or
mhm.
collection of religious or other rites. So it's basically talking about the same thing. Now, as an adjective,
Okay.
a ritual is of the nature or practiced as a
Mhm,
rite or ritual
mhm.
of or relating to the rights of a ritual or ritual laws. And I think that's interesting because it talks so much about established or prescribed,
Mhm,
and it's either something that we've established or prescribed as a set of rules in a box
mhm,
to put ourselves in, or
mhm.
to be constricting around our minds and throats,
Yeah.
or someone else has set and wants us to conform and live
Yes.
to. And in neither case are we actually free. And this is what these 5 steps are really going to help you to become, is free.
Mhm,
Now, I'm not saying
mhm.
this is the only 5 steps that you ever need to do to become free. These are one
No.
of 5 that, that are available to you. But
Mhm,
of these 5, we know that if you follow these 5,
mhm.
we pray that don't take you 5 weeks to get there. It may take you 5 years to get there in some cases.
Sincerely. And
You
and
know?
some stuff we realize in step one or step two, when we name it, we go, that's stupid. I shouldn't have even worried about that. Like there's here's my 2 things. Number one, you said the ritual is something that is established.
Yeah.
I never heard I get to choose.
Right.
I adopt that as my truth. I adopt that as what I'm supposed to do, the prescribed way
Yeah.
of doing something, even if it doesn't align with what I believe.
Yeah.
It's what I'm supposed to do. Um, the second thing is that when we are able to choose,
Hmm.
when we're truly at choice, it is limitless of
Yeah.
what we could choose, instead of staying in the box and going, I only can do this.
Yeah.
We're in a, we become we have the opportunity to become creative
Yeah.
and really manifest whatever we want, whatever we speak, whatever it is. And that's the person I want to remind myself that I'm capable of being a creator.
Be careful that some of your super spiritual people will be like, oh, she's into that prosperity gospel. You're going to manifest what it was. I said, but I'm like, wait a minute.
Ah,
Does the word not say that speak
speak.
those things that aren't yet as though they were?
I
And,
am very free of religiosity, and I mean no
yeah,
disrespect. I am so free of that. This journey of I had to forgive myself for that too.
yeah,
Not that my parents were wrong for teaching me about God or that I don't believe in the
sure.
Bible. I'm not saying that. I go to church. I have a relationship with God. I sing praise and worship. I'm a minister. All of those things are true about me, and I had to establish my own relationship, not misinterpreting or making the word be what I want it to be, but understanding it for how it applies to the life that I want to live. The behaviors that align to what I've heard and the promises that I believe are
Mhm.
for me.
Yeah,
You got to be kidding me if you think that I'm only going to get a mansion in heaven.
yeah,
No, it says what's loose up there is loose down here. What's
yeah,
bound up there is bound down here.
yeah,
I don't have to be bound by what you think I deserve. Hello.
yeah,
Can you
yeah.
I'm gonna write that one down. You go ahead and take the mic, sir. Because I
The-
do not have to be bound by what you think I deserve. Y'all gonna see that.
yeah, that's such a piece that it's such a piece, PIECE, that
Mm-hmm.
we need to have that gives us peace,
Uh-huh.
PEACE.
PCE. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because if we don't get a hold of that thing, that once we get outside of the boundaries of other people's thoughts, and it goes back to what we were talking about too, about don't settle for their portion of freedom.
Yes.
Don't settle in your mind for what
Yes.
other people say that you can do to make you free,
Yeah.
allows you to be free. Work out your own soul salvation. Find your own relationship with God. And sometimes our relationships are messy, and sometimes they're slow, and sometimes they're amazing, and sometimes they suck. But it's all about how we are communicating
Mm-hmm.
in the suckage or in the good times. It's not just,
Mm-hmm.
going to God when I'm happy,
Mm-hmm.
or she says, or maybe it's the reverse. Maybe some of the time, some of us only think about, is there a God when things are really bad?
Mm-hmm.
But when things are good, I'm good. But if we would just realize that that we need healing from whatever it is, from the hangnail that I got here on my finger to
Mm-hmm.
the relationship I have with, friends and family,
Mm-hmm.
we need healing from that sometimes daily.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we need it moment by moment because we can't make it through the day because it comes up and it brings folks to tears
Mm-hmm.
because of what someone said.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching, I'm a big foodie, right? So I was watching the episode of Hell's Kitchen. And
Love that. Love
oh
that.
my
Watch
God.
every season.
So I think
Yeah.
it's 22 they're in right now. And well, it just ended. So those who are watching this season two,
Yeah,
Hell's
there.
Kitchen would have ended probably 6 weeks prior to
Mm-hmm.
this airing. But
Mm-hmm.
the gentleman that came in second was
Mm-hmm.
complaining and mad because the night after a win, he had a little bit too much to drink, and the following morning,
Mm-hmm.
Ramsey said he looked like poo, right? And the
But
guy was,
Randy did not but brother Chef Gordon, Ramsay did not say poo, I'm sure.
oh, no, he didn't. He did not. He used another
No.
colorful,
I love
strong
him.
word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the guy was mad
Mm-hmm.
because Chef said he looked like poo in Ramsey's other close words.
Yeah.
And at the end of that particular episode, he called him, Chef Ramsey called him to the front and said, "Hey, what the hell's wrong with you?"
Mm-hmm.
And the guy told his truth there, which I thought was amazing, which a lot of us don't do when we're called out.
Mm-hmm.
We get like, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
he says, "I was mad because and disappointed because you said I looked like poo."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Do you not understand that that's healthy banter? And that I
Mm,
don't really think that I would never say that and mean it. But
mm,
you did look poor.
mm-hmm.
It was a conversation. It wasn't like I think that you are that. So
Right.
get yourself together." And basically,
Yes.
and I add my own words to that, right?
Yes.
Is that sometimes we need to grow up, put
Mm-hmm.
our big boy pants on, take responsibility for the conversation, and listen to the heart of the intent of what a person is saying.
Yes. Yes.
A friend of mine, Jason Cataldi, he's an interesting Italian young man. He and I have been having these conversations, I think, in show, I'm talking about spinning up this show for Dad Collective. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was having a dad moment, collective moment with him on the phone. I
Mm-hmm.
said, let me ask you, so I feel like our relationship is safe enough for me to ask this question.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I said, I listen to you talk about people and you get very derogatory sometimes about describing a person
Mm-hmm.
as you're ranting about them. I said,
Mm-hmm.
would you, no, I said, is it cultural that it's
Mm-hmm.
this way? Or do you really mean all these negative things?
Mm-hmm.
He says, Craig, I've never had anybody ask me that before. He says, but it's
Mm-hmm.
cultural. We're not actually believing that these people are these negative terms.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, stop. I said, let me clarify that. Are you just using these as adjectives to describe
Mm-hmm.
the person? And you could have easily have taken out all the colorful negative words, and you really could have said, that person over there with that long hair, buck tooth, funny looking, whatever, hole in his jeans, whatever. You could. Is that what you're basically saying? Because yeah, that's the same thing. And I'm not mad at him. I don't hate
Mm-hmm.
him. It's just culturally, we use these adjectives in our
Mm-hmm.
rants to just
Mm-hmm.
talk about a person. I was like, so far too often in our community, we get mad if someone hears the wrong word. Is it hard R or is it ER? Is it A? And in reality, during the same conversation, the
Mm-hmm.
same young man says, he goes, Craig, don't take it the wrong way, please. He says,
Mm-hmm.
even my father told me, I'm not trying to upset any black person when I tell you this. He says,
Mm-hmm.
anybody can be that NI word,
Mm-hmm.
and it don't have
I've
to
been
be
saying
black.
that. I've been saying it forever because it's a spirit and it's a personality. It's not
Right.
anyway.
And that,
Anyway.
right. So it's we as a people need to, not just a people, as a community of human beings, the world collective, we need to grow up and just everything is not so personal.
That's so where I was going earlier too was around maturity.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that when we take on the person that we are supposed to be through this process and we identify we're not settling, there is a level of maturity
Yeah.
in mindset, in
Yeah.
heart, in conversation, in openness.
Yeah.
I could easily, anybody can be offended. I can easily be offended if I wanted to be. Instead, sometimes I will do what you and your friend did.
Yeah.
I will say, tell me more about what you mean by that.
Yeah.
We've done that on the show. Not that I was offended, but we've done
Yeah.
that on the show where I was like, I need you to can you clarify for me what you mean? Because the way I'm processing what you're saying and the word choices that you use or that you have used
Yeah.
mean they may mean the same thing by definition, but how you choose to use them in application and story and
Yeah.
all of the things that you just said, they bring up something different for me.
Yeah.
So instead of being mad, he knows I don't like that word. He knows that you don't know nothing because I didn't tell you
Correct.
about me.
Right.
You know about you. I know about me. It's our responsibility to be mature as we grow, as we let go, as we forgive, and we take on an embodiment of this new person.
Yeah.
That it doesn't mean that we're going to get it right every time. It doesn't mean we're perfect because we're mature. It means that it warrants a different conversation and not go back to the past that we're tethered to immediately and stay there and then judge you based on that.
Yeah. Because we've been set, if we want to be set free from a mindset, like these 5 steps are allow or give you some keys to be set free. You don't ever have to be worried about going back to that old way unless you choose to. If you choose to go down and be, Tyrone separated from my own mentality, or I can be, all of who I am. And if I choose to be angry, I choose to be angry, but it's my responsibility for the word choice and my actions. If I choose to be happy, if I choose to be sad, I have to then be responsible for all of those word choices. And if I choose to get involved in relationships, or if I
Mm-hmm.
choose to self-sabotage and blow them up, I still have to take responsibility for all of that and stop being the victim and
Mm-hmm.
realize that a lot of times I don't want to say the victor, right? I'm the victimizer in so many cases. And I think if you do these 5 steps regularly and learn
Mm-hmm.
them and master them, they become a part of your daily self-improvement, self-help. You
Yeah.
can definitely go from victim to victor over time. It's not going to take It's not going to be immediate
Yeah.
because we didn't get to this place overnight.
And that's part of the problem in doing the work. We
Yeah.
have sometimes it's important to get to the root of a thing.
Yeah.
I would say all the time it's important, but
Yeah.
the quicker that we can get to that root and it resonates with us, it's like, oh, that's what that is. And you experience it and you understand, okay, that wasn't my fault. This is something, a ritual that I was taught. This is
Yep.
a prescription that I've seen over and over and over.
Yep.
This is something that I've heard my whole life. And that fight within us is going, yeah, but is that what you think? And so we're learning how to separate
Yeah.
who we have become based on all of these lived experiences to be the person that we see ourselves being, not settling, living our best life. We're going to talk about that in the upcoming episode number 5 of Let It Go and Live.
Yeah.
I know we kind of tap danced around that a little bit in the freedom of the conversation, but I think it was absolutely necessary and sets us up really nicely to talk about that last step of what is it that you need to let go of in order to live. And sometimes it's a ritual, sometimes it's an idea, sometimes it's freedom of a thought that we had that's holding us back,
Yeah.
that it's possible to live that dream. So,
I'm excited for all of us to live these because if we do, our children and our children's children, our children's children's children will have so
mhm,
much easier of a time because
mhm,
in their bloodline, in their DNA becomes help, becomes
yeah,
tools, that becomes a mindset that everything and anything is possible
mhm,
because and they're free in their
mhm,
minds, right? And of course, we're going to make choices along the way to self enslave ourselves. But if you train up a child in the way they're supposed to go,
mhm,
that kid will always remember at some point who they are
mhm,
and be free. So
mhm.
I think it's awesome. It brings us to, I guess, probably a good place to stop and land the plane, Shell. And like you always like to do, here's our emails. If you've got show ideas, concepts, comments, if you need help, if you're looking for a way to get involved, if you wanted to be a
Yeah.
guest, if you have guest suggestions, you want to looking for a good coach. Shell is a great coach. We also know a host of other coaches that she and I both can connect you with to get you the
Mhm,
help that you need
mhm.
that really fits well with you. If you also want to follow us as we're going along on Instagram and Facebook, it's at the same spot at the same time for both of those. You know,
Absolutely.
I wanted click, share, like, tell a friend, tell your mama's mama, let your dog listen to it. You know what I'm saying? Don't just don't take the information and don't do anything with it because
Mhm,
I think that becomes the greatest problem then to
mhm,
be a well of resource
mhm.
without ever letting the water out
Cold.
and
Mhm,
and using it because it becomes stale at that point. Not stale water, but it'll grow moss. It'll let bacteria grow and fester where the water
mhm.
becomes polluted and there's really no good it becomes, right? And so
Yeah.
we want not just your life to be good, but the lives of everyone that you come in contact with to be better because they knew you and
Yeah.
knew of you and you were a part of their life and you become essential in their life, not because of a need, but
Mhm.
because of a want, because they wanted you to be involved in who they are and what you do. What do you
I
think,
love
Shep?
that. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that we are essential to one another, and that's really the premise of all of this, of all that we're doing to put our hearts out on the table and let people get a sneak peek into our minds and who we are and how we got to where we are,
Yeah.
such that had we learned some of these things earlier on in life, maybe we might be different, maybe what
Mhm.
have you. But I love the generational perspective of not withholding information and experiences that can help our kids grow, that can help our families become healthier.
Yeah.
Not because we're saying they're toxic. What we're saying is that as an individual contributor to the larger family, I
Yeah.
have a space and I have a responsibility. And withholding has never helped anyone actually.
Never.
Even if it's a hurtful thing that they might need to know.
Yeah.
So many times people are angry because they just didn't know, and no one told me.
Yeah.
So if we can share the beauty of growth and being on a journey, that there's nothing wrong with getting help, even that message within itself, there's nothing wrong with getting help. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with saying, I'm deficient in this area, I don't know something, and allowing someone who does, or people who do, to help us get to the place where we see ourselves in the future. So we are also on Podbean. I don't know if we've shared that yet. So we'll be branching out to all of your podcast what do you call it? Venues, platforms,
Video platforms.
such as like Spotify and other places, Apple, and all of those things. So by the time you see this in the future, we should be on those platforms as well. But continue to show and give the grace that you deserve and that you give to others. Take care.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending, word, been in verse, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses of waiting so long. You better catch a God for him to sing. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.